Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with yet another The Tim May Show. And boy, I'm getting right into it because I am excited about having this young man on, Thad Wells, former high school coach uh, of recent reign. But the bottom line is this guy has put his heart and soul and his brain into coaching football, analyzing guys who coach football, even analyzing AI, which he thinks is going to revolutionize play calling, for want of another term, in football at all levels. It could, whether these geniuses who call the plays and design the plays will admit they're using AI down the road remains to be seen. But hey, Thad Wells from eastern part of Tennessee, man, welcome to the Tim May Show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You know why I got you on, man. You had this great thread you ran the other day on uh, your site where you just basically indicated the comparisons between Gus Malzahn timelines, the word I'm looking for there, but indicated the comparisons between Gus Malzahn and Chip Kelly, who Ohio State fans, which is I'm centered here in Central Ohio. Ohio State fans remember Chip Kelly. I hope they do. It was only a few months ago. Was the offensive coordinator for Ohio State, which won the national championship last season, and just sort of how both of these guys aspired to be head coaches to do their thing, and in some respects backed away from that. I don't know if it was if it was an ego check or whatever, backed away from that and became coordinators again or designers again, and to find the joy, the love of football, of really just kind of getting into the X's and O's of it and not worrying about you got to worry about the Jimmies and the Joes, right? But not worrying about all the other stuff that head coaches and especially on the college level have to deal with these days, which is most of it's not football. But what inspired you to kind of put that comparison together?
Yeah, for the last few weeks, I've been involved on Twitter and X for a long time now, and you post a lot of stuff, and some things click and some things don't. And not too long ago, I started just writing some longer threads on really coaches in general, just kind of more along the lines of coaches that have had unique backgrounds, unique journeys, innovation, that kind of thing. Just stories that I've followed over the years.
Yeah.
And the other day, I was just, thinking of a story, and I've always liked following innovators. I've always liked studying Gus Malzahn and Chip Kelly. And the thing that really stuck out to me, a lot of this connects with me personally. I love offense. I love the innovation of schemes, but I've also been a head coach, and there's a lot of things that a head coach has to do that a play caller doesn't have to do, and there's only X amount of hours in a day.
Yeah.
And so I've followed and paid attention, and it's not really a headline always, but I've seen the struggle specifically with Gus Malzahn on his desire to call plays, back off, call plays, back. He would hire an offense coordinator, they would leave, he would hire, and he loves calling offense, and I think he really struggled with that over the years. I was blessed to go spend a week with him and his staff at Arkansas State a long time ago, and just know the passion that he has for X's and O's, and he's been head coach for a long time though, high school and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But you could see that struggle, and then you saw Chip Kelly became was first got became famous for his innovations in offense. Then it went to sports science and all those things, and then obviously Oregon and Knight and Nike and all those things. But long story short, those guys are innovators, and the offense is kind of their bread and butter. But they've wore the hat of head coach.
Yeah.
Maybe they enjoy it. Maybe it was part of the whole deal. But also, in order to do the things they want to do, a lot of times you have to go put that hat on too, or else you won't get the freedom. And
Yes.
I've noticed this personally. Like if you're just an offense coordinator, you're always going to be subject to those who are telling you how to do it. And if you want full control, sometimes you got to do the things you might not love doing. And they both have now pulled back, whether they saw the writing on the wall or, in my opinion, they just said, "Hey, man, look at what all is going on in college football. Look at what's going on, just in terms of NIL and all those things. You know what? There's a lot. I know financially I'm good, whether I make another penny, but also as an OC at the highest levels, of Power Four football, or now Chip Kelly back to the NFL, I can make enough money. So do I really want all that headache? Or do
Yeah.
I just want to do what I want to do? Because I can still impact players. I can still have a purpose and a mission. I'm still going to have articles written on me. Like I've got all, let me just pull back and enjoy and take away 80% of the workload off my
Yeah.
plate so I can do what I love.
Yeah. You still got to recruit. I mean, on the college level, you still have to have some semblance of recruiting in your thing also. But you're exactly right. That Chip Kelly basically told us that, when he showed up at Ohio State, as you well know. I mean, that story's pretty well chronicled how Ryan Day had hired Bill O'Brien. Ryan Day had tried to step away from the play calling a couple of years ago, couldn't do it. He's one of those kind of coaches. And But then he finally did last season. He had hired Bill O'Brien, and all of a sudden, Bill O'Brien, the Boston College job comes open. He takes a job of his dreams. I know, that's a hell of a dream, but takes the job of his dreams at Boston College as head coach, and Chip had been trying to leave UCLA and get into the NFL. You know his old background. I'm just letting people who maybe aren't familiar with it. He had basically wanted to get back into the offensive coordinating job full time. Nobody in the NFL really took the bait a year ago, and lo and behold, when Bill O'Brien left abruptly, Ohio State hires Chip Kelly the last of February, and once that train got going in the playoffs, it was hard to stop. And what a combination! But Chip Kelly, you could tell, he without him saying it, he has unfinished business in the National Football League, because when he was there before, he was a head coach, and it didn't work out at either Philadelphia or San Francisco. But his love, I don't know if you've been in a clinic with him, been around him and stuff, but he just loves to talk the minutia of offensive football, of run the damn ball offensive football. Kind of in some ways, a throwback and stuff, but in other ways, extremely innovative in the realm of running the ball. So that's what I wanted to ask you. What do Malzahn and Chip have in common in your mind? Just because, except for the fact that I'm thinking at every stoplight, they're thinking of a new way to do something. When they're driving
Yeah.
to work or driving home, they're thinking of a new way to do something when it comes to running the ball or throwing the ball.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's like the threads that I'm putting on Twitter, or just the things that I like to, I love to read, I love to learn, I love learning. That's one of my favorite things in life. And what I love to study is people who are obsessed and are just all in on all the details, the minutia that you just talked about. And it doesn't even have to be football, but
Yeah,
these are guys, people that make it to that level, and who are innovators. That's what it's about. And kind of the rap on these guys, I mean, from the coach's perspective, has been, man, these guys were innovators. They changed the game. And then they kind of have gone through a period, some more so, especially with, Chip Kelly kind of got back out of it, maybe with this national championship, but Malzahn's still struggling a little bit
yeah,
with this perception of, well, they were innovators, but has everybody caught up? And
yeah,
so, being an innovator once is not enough. It has to become a habit and a way of continually evolving. That's how businesses compete. That's how militaries, strategy is developed. And then in football, and it's typically led by offense, followed by defense, because of being, the reactive nature of defense. And so somebody develops something and somebody counters. And if you don't continue to develop and create new strategies, and then people catch up.
yeah.
And it's been, both of them have gone through this process, I think.
Real quick, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I want to ask you this. What is one thing you can point out that Gus Malzahn, that people aren't familiar with him, and it's hard to believe anybody who knows football isn't familiar with. But what is something he brought to the offensive game that just stands out to you that, if nothing else, he brought this to it?
Most people are going to, coaches that I got into studying football at a hard core level at early 2000s. So I learned about Gus Malzahn his last couple years in high school, and he became famous for up-tempo offense. That
Yes.
was his bread and butter. The number boards, going as fast as you can. He was running a lot of wing tees style high school plays. And then built a relationship with Herb Hand, and that helped him out in terms of a better college run game down the road, but it was very run heavy. Both of these guys, very run heavy.
Yeah.
Passing game was neither one was heavily developed. Now, obviously, they've done that over the years and more so, but Malzahn brought more than anything the no huddle up tempo. Others were doing it, but that he put his stamp. He wrote a book, which made him very popular on it. It's one of the first coaching books I read. I had a VHS series, which I had, still have, and yeah, so he was up tempo is what I first recognized for him.
Yeah, and ironically, you know, that's what made Chip Kelly famous. I mean, Urban Meyer, when he stepped away from Florida, he worked for ESPN. I, he basically then had retired, but it turned out to be it was just a sabbatical. And he several times he went to Oregon. I think he arranged it himself because he wanted to study what Chip Kelly was all about. This up tempo, run as many offensive plays as you can. Overwhelm the defense if you can, but run as many plays as you can. And Urban Meyer got really caught into that when he showed up at Ohio State in 2012. Boy, that was the innovation. Brought in Tom Herman from Iowa State, who had been the offensive coordinator there, and they took it. But that's what Malzahn and Chip Kelly had in common, right? I mean, what have you seen evolve about Chip Kelly's game just from studying him from afar?
Well, my life, now that you're saying this, I'm really connecting a lot more dots that I haven't thought about lately. But my life changed in studying strategy. And I read a book on Chip Kelly called The Tao of Chip Kelly, I think, or something like that.
Yeah,
Or yeah. And I don't remember a lot about that specific book necessarily right off the top of my head, but it sent me down a path. And I came across a book called Certain to Win by Chet Richards, and it was about John Boyd, military strategist, and the OODA loop, and asymmetric fast transients. Just very high level, and I went down that path very deeply for the next several years, studying military books that like aren't for the general public, just very deep, and just understanding. And when I read Certain to Win, I was like, Chip Kelly has studied John Boyd somehow, some way, or the OODA loop. I don't know. And then I talked to some NFL guys who were like, yeah, we're studying the OODA loop as well. So I just went all in and I studied John Boyd. I mean, he has some old, he never wrote really a book. He wrote a couple manuals. He was a fighter pilot who basically the Air Force didn't want anything to do with. But the Marines took him in. Their warfighter manual was wrote based off of John Boyd, and then John Boyd created a bunch of like slide decks and would do presentations. And there's some on YouTube that are probably too dry for a lot of people, but man, it changed my life and coaching
yeah,
in my life because what I saw was a philosophy. John Boyd was basically like a Sun Tzu of the 21st century, basically,
yeah,
and it was very philosophical. But it's just this whole thing like Ching and Chi is a big Eastern philosophy part of it where it's like jab, jab, right hook. We're going to jab, 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 get you to think this is what matters. Chip Kelly in the run game. Okay, jab, jab. And then the right hook is the play action where we want to score right this second. And that's a lot of football. I mean, the best play in football statistically. So when I was at the University of Virginia with Coach Bronco Mendenhall, like I had and Matt Edwards, and so Matt Edwards is a grandson of Lavelle Edwards, and he was big into analytics, and he showed me a lot of just studying this stuff, and I did research on the NFL for like a 5 year period, the most consistent, efficient plus explosive, because that's ultimately what you want in
yeah,
football. You want
yeah,
to play that's efficient and explosive. You just need efficiency to keep getting a chance to be explosive. You want
yeah,
explosive to reduce the number of plays because efficiency is a hard game. That's why military programs play the efficiency game because they have discipline that most people don't. So all you're doing is you're trying to get enough first down, to get enough shots at scoring, and that's what these teams are really doing. Even though they're run heavy, they want that deep shot. So the best play over time is the skinny post down more so down in the middle of the field, and that's
yeah,
by getting safeties down,
yeah,
getting them over the top, and just studying like so. Then you have Ching and Chi or jab jab right hook, and then you throw in the chaos. That's the speed. That's not letting you want your decision cycle, the OODA loop, you want your decision cycle to be faster than your opponent's. You're working inside of their decision cycles, which doesn't let them see the game you're playing, the jab, jab, right hook, basically.
yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, yeah, it. I mean, it really is, and it's. I mean, it's funny because when you're talking here, I'm thinking a lot of people wouldn't equate these people, but like Joe Gibbs, when he was the head coach of the Washington Redskins, he wanted to pound you and then boom, throw over the top. I mean that's a great example of expect this and then expect make them expect this and then do that and stuff. He would get you flinching and all that kind of stuff. And he
Yeah.
won some Super Bowls with that approach.
What's funny, you mentioned that. So I grew up a diehard Raiders fan. And now this
Oh,
is a little bit before my time, but
yeah,
Al Davis built that entire team off of run the ball, throw it deep to fast people.
yeah,
And I really got into I mean I remember Art Shell a little bit, but I really got into it when John Gruden turned that thing around. Who I got to meet like last year and got to sit down and talk with, which was the best thing ever.
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah,
unbelievable. But so John Gruden and then Bill Callahan as the OC. One of my first coaching books before, like in high school or right out, was reading John Gruden's book and just the West Coast offense with when he was with the Eagles and all that. But anyways, yeah, just the same philosophy. We're gonna run the ball and then we're gonna throw it to fast people down the field.
yeah. Well, hey, before I move on to the thing I wanted to ask you about too, I wanted to ask you this. Chip Kelly, second time around the National Football League, and you're not hanging out with him. You're not hanging out with the Raiders and stuff in Las Vegas. But what do you think? What is the lesson you think he learned from being there before in the NFL? And of course, the level that Ohio State played at this past season, with the talent they had on hand, but also it was a more deliberate offense, because of the time rules now. They averaged about 62, 63 plays a game, which is about 20, at least 20 fewer than he averaged when things were going well, like at Oregon and stuff. But what do you think he got most out of that experience and the experience of being in the NFL before that will help him from your coach's analysis standpoint?
Well, I mean, he's had several years now since the NFL to really reflect.
Right.
Obviously, he has some kind of thought that says, I can do this better. And he's not a head coach. So obviously, but there's been a thought that I think I can do this. When he went to the NFL as a head coach, the thing about the NFL and like, I mean, obviously at Ohio State, like you have a brand where you can go get, you're always going to have some of the best players, which is going to help. I mean, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how creative you are. It is players first.
Yeah.
The NFL is a whole different game in the terms of from top to bottom. It's not that different in terms of talent. And it's hard to flip the script. I mean, he has a relationship with Pete Carroll. He doesn't have to worry about the culture side of things now.
Yeah.
It'll be ran by Pete. But still, yeah, I mean, the bottom line for him to be successful in the NFL, a huge part of this is quarterback play. And so that's still the question mark I think about is the man he go into the Raiders. I got Geno Smith. Is this going to be? They got Ashton Gentry, great running back to start with. They got some good receivers, great tight end. But he's still the quarterback play. And is this guy going to be the guy that's going to help Kelly, write his NFL career?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. That's what's fascinating because it always does. Even with Gus Malzahn, he was fortunate at Springdale High School in Springdale, Arkansas, to have a couple of gunslingers come through there, right? That could throw
Yep.
the ball better than the average Joe. And it always comes down to the guy with the ball in his hands, and also is he getting protected? And you've been a head coach. I mean, you've been a head coach. You've been a football coach for a long time. Hey, I wanted to move into this. You've got a little online clinic coming up. What, on Wednesday, May 14th? Explain to people what that's about, how they can get involved in that.
Yeah, so about we won a state title several years ago, and I kind of woke up the next day being like, is this it? Am I just going to chase championships? And it was amazing. It was awesome, no doubt. But soon after, you start to question things, and Coach Mendenhall has mentioned this before. A lot of people have done that, at different levels. They achieved the success they wanted, and then they say, "Well, what's next?"
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, well, I felt called to help coaches, and so I started going down that path a long time ago and had a couple different means of doing that, businesses. And one of my core principles this entire time, or things that I like to share, is the thought of being more efficient, doing more with less. That's if you're going to be a good football coach, no football coach ever goes from no not being a head coach to getting an amazing head coaching job. They're going to
Yeah.
have to they have to win with less first. That's just how it is. Less resources, less money, less talent, less bodies, creating game plans, all those things. So
Not having a great quarterback. Yeah. Still
yeah,
getting it
correct. You
done.
have
Yeah.
to, yeah, Chip Kelly at New Hampshire and stuff, So,
Yeah.
you have to win with less. And the main thing, the biggest thing for me is I don't want coaches to lose everything else in life off the field in order to get a ring or whatever. And so that's what has been my message for a long time. And so then you say, well, how do you make this practical? Because I know this, trying to have an altruistic message where you just say, hey, get home to your family, it doesn't hit very well, and that's in all areas of life. You have to talk about what matters and what people want to give them hopefully a little bit of what matters. And I think that path now, the practical path, is to efficiency and having more time. Whether you invest that right back into the program or into other areas of life, is technology, is AI, is automation, and so I love AI when it came out, when ChatGPT first came out 2 years ago or whatever. Now, I blocked an entire week of doing nothing but man, like this. I love technology. I've been like I'll try anything out, and when I tried that out, I was like, oh, this is different, and so I went all in. And from that point, I have multiple computer monitors in my football office at home here, and one monitor is always with AI, and that's usually it's multiple tabs with ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok. Those are my main ones, and then some others. And I'm just always they all do certain things better than each other. But I just started saying, man, this is how you get coaches more time. This is how you help small colleges with lesser staff
Yeah.
resources, high school guys who have to teach and coach, and really at the highest level. I mean, every business that is thinking at all about the next 12 months has someone working somewhat on AI and it's called leverage. It is leverage. That's what this is about. You
Leverage.
have you have 24 hours in a day, but you only have maybe 16 or so. And
Maybe.
so
Yeah.
yeah, if you don't want to do anything with your family. And so I'm saying like if I want to get the most out of my days, then I've got to think how to leverage. And head coaches specifically, the list of being a head football coach is one of the most impossible jobs in the world. The list of things that you have to be, you can't be good at them all, but the list of things you have to at least be understanding of
On
in
top of.
order to,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, on this clinic that I'm doing, I'm going to list, I have a screen. I'm not going to list them all because it would take me an hour, but here's all the things. And you're like, oh, wow, that's everything I need to be somewhat alert of. But you're like, no, the answer is not that. To be a good head coach or coordinator or really any leader in general, leverage is the key. You have to take the time you have, identify the key aspects of your work that's going to move the needle, and then you have to use leverage, which in the three forms of figure of where to put your focus in
Yeah.
is should you delete it? Does it not even matter? Because that's the best thing is just get rid of it if you can. Okay. If you can't delete it, then you have to do it yourself, or we want to delegate it to somebody else or automate it. And so this clinic is specifically talking about automation, AI, how to leverage the time that we do have to invest into our careers.
Hey, explain to me. And by the way, how can folks join that clinic tomorrow or on May
You can
14th?
go, yeah, if you go to my Twitter account or X profile, Thad Wells, ThadWells. I've got a pin thread on there, or there's a bunch of links. You can see it
Okay.
on there. Yeah, I mean, whenever this comes out, it's just a few more hours, but the replay will also be available to anybody
Yeah,
that's seeing
exactly.
this later.
Yeah, that's why I wanted. I wanted to make it out there. Like I said, I was going to try to post this later this afternoon. We're recording it on Tuesday, May 13th. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're really, ladies and gentlemen, if you're really involved and really want to get better as a football coach, you're probably watching this anyway. Hey, Thad, I want to get this. I mean, the piqued my interest is how can AI help you in play calling? Are you talking about play calling as in coming up with a list? Or are you talking about play calling in the middle of a game? You're sitting there talking to Alexa or something, or Alexa, or you're getting something into your computer sitting in the press box that can help you come up with the next play.
Yeah.
Where is this headed, do you think?
Yeah. The answer
Because to call
is
plays, there are some parameters that you
yeah.
got to have in the system, right? Go ahead.
Yeah. The answer is yes, and all of the above.
Wow.
It will never replace intuition. You will
Right.
have, but intuition can manifest itself in multiple ways. It can show up on game day. It can show up during the week. And so AI and leveraging this for this specific area is really just a matter of what do you feed it. And so if I'm a coach
Right.
who doesn't understand football, AI is not very good at all. Like it does not understand football. If you just hop on a prompt and say, "Hey, help me do," it does not get it, which is good for coaches. But if you really understand AI prompting, and that's something I'm talking about in the clinic is how to prompt. But if you understand how to prompt and you understand the game of football, you can build things. And so right now, even I'm just I'm it's kind of beta. Again, I have a business called Rooski, and I help with play calling and systems and practice plans and all that. And AI will be a part of this, and it already is, but it's kind of the beta aspect of it. And so right now, I can feed it my play call script, and you've got to be detailed. The thing that I think that coaches is going to make better coaches for this is because of how detailed you have to be in order to get anything decent out of AI.
Yeah.
You've got to tag your play calls, you've got to pare down, and you just have to be super detailed with it. If you create a spreadsheet and you tag everything that truly matters without going too deep, the more if you go real deep, it'll start to confuse it. But if you find the things that matter, the down and distance that this play works good on,
Yeah.
the which hash do you want to call this on? Is this good versus an odd or even front? Well, then you can literally, and you don't even have to be on a computer. You can have your phone on the sideline, and
Yeah.
somebody could be standing there. And as soon as the play ends, okay, somebody gets tackled. All you have to say is 3rd and 4, left hash minus 28. Boom. And then it will suggest to you, based off of whatever you want it to suggest, it can suggest the best play call for, that down and that distance. It could give you 3 play calls. Hey, this is a safe play to be efficient. Hey, this is a medium play with medium risk that has a chance to be explosive. Hey, here is a high risk play that could also be very explosive. And in your mind as a play caller, you could just be saying, well, I'm just going to pick the one that's low.
Yeah.
Now, if you are extreme up tempo and you're the one that's calling plays before the guy's tackled, which most coaches don't, but if you're doing that, like you're not going to be able to use something like this in that way.
Yeah.
But between series, if you're feeding it information, be like, hey, if somebody's just talking to him, be like, hey, they've been running, okay, on this play, you could literally just be like, hey, don't talk to me right. You basically tell it, hey, don't talk to me right now. Let me just feed you information. And somebody could be like, all right, they just ran even front cover 2 on 1st and 10. All right, it's and just provide it, and then be okay. We're in the middle of a series. What's going on? And it will just give you feedback.
Oh,
There's going to be coaches. You and I talked about this before we started talking. There's going to be coaches that resist because of ego, and this is in all professions. It's a man thing
yeah.
more than anything. But there's going to be people that resist it. Then there's going to be people that maybe go too far and they
Yeah.
lose their intuition. This football, being successful at football and really anything, is both an art and a science, and
Well,
you want to balance both.
yeah, I was going to say Gus Malzahn and Chip Kelly are great examples of guys who said, you know what, we can run a lot more plays, than the average team. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, a lot of people started trying to do it or doing it and stuff, and then everything goes in cycles and stuff. Hey, you touched on it just then, but it's also uh, imperative that all the information be in there from a defensive side too, right? I mean, as far as like we're talking purely offensive football here, calling plays, but of having the right tendencies you've gotten from the study of the week. Going into an opponent of what they like to do defensively, right, in certain situations.
Yeah.
down in distance and stuff too. So it does take effort, right? I mean,
Yeah.
AI's got to get the information from somebody, right? And
Well. So specifically on this point, when I was with Coach Mendenhall at UVA, I was an offensive guy, but he put me with the defensive staff.
yeah, yeah,
So my job was to analyze the next opponent. So they would be working on week one, I would be working on week two during that week, and then on the Monday morning we would come in, and then I would present that the opponent. And my entire job was it was twofold, which is every defensive person is I'm looking at all the data and I'm trying to which is more objective information, but then I'm watching the film to look for the subjective things and the
yeah,
things that data doesn't understand. But this was right before AI came out. If I would have had it, it would have made my life way faster than what I was doing. It would have given me reports way more detailed. It could have cleaned them up better. Basically, I was taking a program in college called PFF. They gave you all the data, but I had to pull out the things that I had to find the things. So
yeah.
I had to look at numbers, look at, where were the outliers? With
Pertinent.
AI, you can just download a spreadsheet, pop it in and be like, hey, what are the outliers? What am I not seeing? And it's, at the University of Virginia, ACC, still Power Four, but our resources were vastly different than in Ohio State in terms of how much manpower we had to look at those things. It's all there because of companies like PFF, but in order to find things, it's so insane the amount of effort it takes to use statistics in football that at the high school level, I completely, and then most coaches are like, what? Because I'm into all this stuff, I completely disregarded it. I went all intuition because I didn't have the manpower to look through, to enter all this stuff, to
Yeah,
look through
yeah,
all this stuff. I looked at the 80% metrics, but I watched game and I got a feel. I trained my intuition because I feel in the long run, if you can train your intuition, it's going to serve you better than being like, hey, it's 3rd and 6 on the left hash and the wind's blowing 17.3 miles per hour. The quarterback's girlfriend broke up with him this weekend. One of
right.
the things Nassim Taleb, as an author I really like to study, he talks a lot about statistics and the law of small numbers. The thing with football, even though we have a lot of data points from a lot of years now, every situation is so different. It's almost impossible to apply a single play to another single play in the game. So therefore, data is always got a little asterisk beside of
A
it.
little
And
flaw. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I was hoping you'd get into that because it does come down to did your left tackle slightly sprain his ankle, 2 series ago, and he's not moving. You know what I mean? There all these little increments that come into the machine. Like I was telling you before we started, I'm trying to repair the engine on my zero turn. I mean, one little piece can render a 23 horsepower engine useless. But it's really interesting. I wanted to run this by you further because Ohio State fans would appreciate your take on this. 3rd and 11 against Notre Dame late in the game, and Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator, Ryan Day, the head coach. He was known to be bold as an offensive play caller. When he was calling plays, et cetera, at times. Boom. Not even really a play action, but Will Howard takes 2 steps back and hits Jeremiah Smith down the right sideline on a little almost like a post fade route. He's wide open. Boom! National championship clinched. 3rd and 11. They pick up the blitz. Uh, I think Notre Dame sent 7 guys. For sure, they sent 6. Whatever. Where would that fall? You think in sure call, bold call? Are you nuts? But go ahead and do it. Call.
yeah. So this hits on probably the most fundamental aspect of play calling, maybe football in general, but I think about it as anticipation versus execution.
Yeah.
And it's a paradox. It's a scale where you're one side or the other. You can run all you do is run power and you run it over and over and you execute the heck out of it. But if that's all you do, then the opponent anticipates. So they practice it. They're teeing off on it. The defense coordinator's calling the play to stop power. And if you do it year over year and you're Michigan versus Ohio State, then you recruit to stop that play. Well,
Yeah.
if you become predictable, then you're going to be less effective. So you're trying to win a football game. And you must, at some, I like to think of it as like a soccer goalie standing in the goal, and you're about to kick a free kick. And at that moment, I mean, I'm not a big soccer guy, but this is the way I interpret it, at least. You've got to make a guess. Like you're not going to be able to see it off his foot and react that quick. So you're guessing. And so you want the defense or offense to be just enough different, just enough not normal play calls to throw them off.
Yeah.
And then if you set them up in over an entire game, some of the best times to take that chance is when it is like they're going to be, safe here. They're
Yeah.
going, and then ultimately, I mean, now there, I guarantee you, Ryan Day had an analyst standing right beside him or up top, telling him, "Hey, the chart that we get from a company that analyzes all of our data right now says you should hand the ball off and punt."
Yeah.
And then Ryan Day has to be like, "Nope, I'm going for it." And
Yeah.
so that it's intuition, it's a feel, and they coaches can have all the data in the world. It can say based off the last 1,000 years of football, you should punt right here or play it safe. But then something in them says, "Nope, I'm a man. I'm going for it. We're going to win it right now."
Yeah.
And sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of coaches, when that bites them, they clam up and they get less and less and less aggressive, and that can hurt their career in the long run.
Hey, can I ask one last thing along those lines? Um, the interaction between coaches is still vital. I mean, you can't have like you're talking about. You can't have an offensive coordinator just out there winging it, on his own. Now, if he's the head coach, he can do that. Yeah, but but the conversation that Ryan Day and Chip Kelly talked about, if they present this is what we're going to do, right? I mean, it was like kind of like a no brainer. You go in with you don't go totally off script from the standpoint of you got to have something that you've worked on, you've grinded on to a certain extent, right? But the last thing I just wanted to ask you, when the head coach, like Pete Carroll, is Chip Kelly's head coach, uh, how much will it grind Chip Kelly's gears if all of a sudden Pete Carroll goes, let's just grind, keep grinding it. You know what I mean? How do you think Chip Kelly will deal with that now in his later years of now running an NFL offense? I know you don't know Chip Kelly that well. I'm not saying y'all have beers together or anything like that, but uh, there's still give and take, no matter what kind of genius you are, right?
Just coaching, the coaching profession is very, very typically very set in honoring the head coach's wishes.
Yeah,
Even though Chip Kelly could have an ego and say, "I've been in this situation, I know what's best." Even when he was trained as an assistant, he was not a head coach always. So he knows, and he's had assistants that he's trained. So
yeah,
he knows when I'm not the man, I'm not the man. And when Pete Carroll says jump, I say how high. I mean, that's literally how coaching is.
almost like the military. Yeah,
Correct. And you will not have a job in week 4 if that's not how it goes, typically.
yeah,
Now, I think Pete Carroll also has more empathy, emotional intelligence, awareness to be a person that can not get heated over something like that. Because in the middle of a game, two guys with those big of reputations and egos, you never know what can happen. I mean, the nicest humans on earth, you throw them in the middle of a football game and they can be different humans.
yeah.
So you don't know, but I think they both, and especially Pete, I think they have the awareness that it takes to operate at the highest possible way, the highest performance that you can. And so I think with empathy, emotional intelligence, they'll work together. But I do think Chip will treat his head coach as his head coach.
Hey, Ted, can I ask you one other quickie? Ohio State's going to have a brand new starting quarterback this year, no matter who it is. Looks like it good chance it could be Julian Sayin, a kid, lead 11 superstar, right on down the line and stuff. He's going to be he's going to be a first time starter. You know who I'm talking about. He was recruited by Alabama and then left Alabama when Nick Saban retired. Um, and then Lincoln Keenholt's a little bit different kind of quarterback and stuff. But as an offensive coordinator, how much do you have to pare back, or as a head coach and offensive coordinator, how much do you have to pare back at the beginning? It seems obvious that you do and stuff, but what is the impetus as the season goes along to bring this guy up to speed so you can drive that car at the speed you want to have it driven, even though you do have still a beginning or a rookie driver driving it. You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah,
how
I
much
mean,
how much would AI figure into that? Hey, let's don't be stupid here, type thing. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean this entirely comes down to your system. Some guys, they'll bring an NFL system, and it's a ton of terminology, a ton of reads. It's very complex, and for those guys to be anywhat successful, they must pare down. There's
Yeah,
no way you can take a freshman or just a young guy and execute, you know what you name an NFL quarterback is doing when you
yeah,
leave.
yeah,
Versus somebody like somebody that a Mike Leach, a Tony Franklin, the air raid guys, Tony Franklin with Goff and these guys that ran
yeah,
very simplistic systems that they would just installed in day one every year, no matter what. Day one was this, day two is this. I don't care who my quarterback is. This is the system. And it's simplified. So some people have giant systems they must bring down and then build the quarterback up. Some
yeah,
people just take their systems and say, "This is my system." And in today's world, you're going to have a hard time not living in this way because of NIL, because of the transfer portal. You've got to be able to win with a quarterback. Miami right now, getting whatchamacallit over from
yeah.
Georgia.
Carson Beck. Yeah,
Yeah, like it's just yes, smart dude, whatever, but we got to win this year. I don't have
yeah.
time to bring him up over 2 years of installs. So
Development. Yeah,
yeah, so in general, I mean, a lot of colleges need to win with the freshmen now. They need to win with the first year transfer. And so if your system requires too much from from your quarterback, it's just an anomaly to have a guy that can process all 4 years of install now. It's just not normal.
yeah. I'm just wondering how AI is going to interpret a bad read. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, because
Yeah, I mean that
you can have the perfect play and then the read's wrong. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, you have the VR that's been around for a while now. You have film analysis now that's using basically like it'll look at the film, it'll analyze it, and it could tell you that the placement of things. But it's still a long way from taking a coach out of that level of detail, and it may never get to where you could remove a coach that's analyzing the mistakes of a quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
the truth on that.
All right. I don't want to keep this short. It'll be up to you to keep it short. Your favorite, most innovative coach ever that you've studied, is it Mike Leach? Who is that guy?
Homer Rice.
Wow.
Homer Rice, he was a high school coach.
Yep.
I want to say back in the 50s, 60s in Kentucky. He got famous there running like the short T, even wrote a book on it. And then he was an absolute innovative coach who left there, ended up at Rice, ended up at Georgia Tech. He wrote a book on called like Triple Option Football, which was it did have triple option football in it, but it had one of the most amazing simplistic systems that would crush it even today.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just and then he wrote another book called Air Option, which had an even more advanced RPO than what is being ran today. And that book was written in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that was I found an AFCA offensive strategies book when I was like 19 years old. And I read that book and there was one section about this triple option system. And I was beat in the state semifinals. I was a quarterback. We lost in the state semifinals to an under center veer triple option team.
Where's
And
this
I
now? Where
became
were you? Where were
I
you?
was at
Tennessee.
Richlands High School in Virginia at the time. We
Okay.
lost to a school called Salem, which is a powerhouse in Virginia, and which we ended up. It was a great victory later on as a coach. We finally got the victory over them. But
Gotcha.
I studied them. I like studying Bob Lattiser and De La Salle's triple option and the Veer, Bill Yeoman, all those guys.
Oh, Bill
But
Yeoman. I sat on two of his lectures, man. I enjoyed. Go ahead. Yeah, the Veer.
so
Oh,
so Homer Rice's system was so simple. When I saw it in that AFCA book, again, at like 19 years old, I went and ordered off Amazon or something at the time, found the book, his triple option book. And I was just like, that's what set my career, I think, on innovation mixed with simplicity, mixed with building your own system. And And almost no coach really has ever studied Homer Rice or heard of him. He retired early. He even made it to the NFL with all this,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
retired early, became an AD, really got more into the leadership side of coaching and training people. But he was innovative and really cool guy to study.
How frustrated do those kind of guys get though when they don't necessarily have even as simple as sometimes they can make it? They don't have the Jimmies and the Joes to do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like an artist who doesn't have those couple of three or four paints that he really needs to take it to the next level. How how frustrated do those kind of guys get? I always considered Mike Leach was a little bit frustrated all through
Well,
his career. You understand
listen,
what I'm saying?
so Mike Leach's identity, it goes along with the Pirates. It goes along with all that lore, all
Washbuckling.
that
Yeah.
is kind of like the I can do more with less. I've got this underdog. I never played. I think he liked a lot. I think he liked the challenge. It's the same thing with Bronco Mendenhall.
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall is one of the smartest, most CEO, most level-headed humans I've ever met in my life. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he loves rebuilding programs. He loves the challenge of taking something that's not currently successful and starting to build it.
Yeah, so sorry about that. You know, the camera died with the heat, the
Yeah.
sun flashing on it. But
You're bringing the heat, baby.
yeah, no, it's at the end of the day, it always comes down to potential, and this is what I learned from John Boyd. Um, if you're in a dogfight and you're trying to fight the enemy and you're trying not to die, if you're the best fighter pilot in the world, it doesn't matter if your plane is slow, if it can't turn.
Yes.
So you have to have what he would call potential energy. You've got to have enough potential to get you onto a playing field of some sort. And then it comes down to the decisions being made. So an athlete with unbelievable raw potential who has the speed and the strength and size, all those things, but then the mind can't make decisions quickly, then they're wasted. So the offense coordinator, defense coordinator, the head coach that has all the systems, has all the thoughts, but they don't sell out to recruiting. They don't bring in the best players. They're always going to have a ceiling that is capped by talent, not their thoughts,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. What a frustrating way to live. By the way, dude, you're the first guy who's ever brought flying a fighter jet and football into a conversation with me, which is basically like hitting the mega millions as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a big time aviation buff. And Chuck Yeager was my hero growing up, and right on down the line, and then football. You know, what's better than football, right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Thad, one quick thing. People can join again, can join that clinic or can see a replay on it. But at Thad Wells is your Twitter X handle and stuff, and they can find all the information there, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Everything they want to see about the clinic, about just threads and thoughts on football, life, all that.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, he didn't prompt me with being on here for me promoting his clinic, but the bottom line is this guy's extremely interesting, and he's talking football at the highest level. Thad Wells, thank you very much for being on the Tim May Show.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.